The Texas death match between Bryan Danielson and Ricky Starks was absolutely fantastic. And you could say a Starks was born.
I was gonna no sell, but then the X was so loud.
I am Luco and DAD. I'm joined by the Professor of the Truth, your gem, that champion, Dan Layton, and welcome to the WrestleTalk Podcast review of AEW Collision. Please do press the subscribe button if this is your first time here. And give us a little thumbs up as well, because we do so many videos, and it's a busy old week here with WrestleDream happening this weekend. And send in your Omega chats?
No Mega Chats. He's not even on it.
Still not on the show.
Stark remark.
The Stark remarks. Send in your Stark remarks to WrestleTalk.com/support. We'll read out all of them above the $5 amount. And if you are watching on demand, leave a comment down below with what you thought of this episode of Collision and this match as a whole. Well, I thought that this was a tremendous episode of Collision.
Of course you did, because you're paid by them to say so.
Well, obviously. I have to say that's by contract.
Yeah.
I have to say that was an excellent addition.
Tony Khan is standing just right there.
But even without the contract in place,
you'd still say it was quite good.
I still thought this was a very good episode. I thought it was it's actually, I believe now, officially, the highest rated episode of Collision via cage match that they've ever had. And it is now in the top 7 episodes of AEW all year long, going by cage match viewer feedback.
I mean, one of the questions was in the wake of a certain departure was, how will this show that was built entirely to facilitate this person's return become viable? What will they do? And the answer, I suppose, is just people step up to try and take their spot.
Yeah, Bryan Danielson shows up and it's like, hello, I'm the best wrestler on the planet. Do you need my services?
Would you like a match now? Yeah.
Everyone's like, yeah, all right.
Yeah, go on then.
Go on then. You go
American Dragon.
You go out there and have a little banger.
Yeah.
You all the time.
Yeah.
And they did it again this week. It was our main event of Danielson versus Starks. Texas death match. This is to blow off their feud.
Yeah.
So, really should have been an Iron Man match if you're going by 2K logic. But they're blowing off the feud here before he faces Zack Sabre Jr. on next
submission
week's
match. That's why you're going wrong this whole time.
As an Iron Man match is something different.
As you'll see in the forthcoming Wednesday Night War, we know what we're doing.
Yeah.
So
you're right. It was a submission match.
Yeah.
What does an Iron Man match give you again?
A whole bunch of fans. I think it is. I never use them.
No. So the risk of injury is high.
Exactly. It's not really worth it. But in this context, little Texas death match that took place in Michigan. Quite happy.
Yeah. Quite happy with that.
Yeah.
I mean, could have called it a Michigan death match.
It doesn't quite have the same ring to it.
But also, as a fan of history, as Tony Khan is, he's like, no, that match type is called a Texas death match, and I'm not changing it no matter what state I'm in.
I will always just find it quite funny that he booked a Texas death match in Michigan. Like, the match itself was great, and we had a really good... But I'm always just... It's like, they're not in Texas. It was just like, what match should we give them this week? A Texas death match. Why not?
Early on in this match, Ricky Starks did a dive from the ring to Danielson, who was in the crowd.
Yeah.
It was proper, and it might just be because I've just watched Barely Legal 97 for WrestleTalk Extra over on Patreon. It was proper ECW stuff, but with more plants and less real fans.
Well, it was a really interesting segment that you've brought that one up specifically, because it really worked for me for a minute, because they were talking about how there were fans who were quite excited to have Danielson in the front row, and as we've seen, because the match started with them brawling in the crowd, fans can get quite rambunctious and quite excited, and if Bryan Danielson lands on your lap, you probably are going to be a bit like, whoa. I'm not necessarily saying you're going to start grabbing and groping, but they were mentioning it in the crowd of there's security here because these fans quite excited, got to make sure they're all protected, and before you know it, we've got a big launch to take us into the commercial break over the top that goes all the way into the crowd, and I was like, oh, you clever sausages. You really got me.
So good. I really enjoyed that. Ricky Starks did a promo mid-match. He really is like The Rock. Danielson got busted open.
Kevin Nash somewhere is spitting.
Danielson got busted open from the ring bell. I really enjoyed the spear and the lock with the choke. Starks got the choke on with the chain, just in the same way that Danielson had choked him out. And actually, Ricky Starks had choked him out on TV as well. His whole feud has been built around them sort of choking each other out. And he thought, Starks did, he thought he got the win with it, but Danielson got back up just before the 10 counts. And then he got him into a chokehold, did Danielson, with the chain and everything. And I was really enjoying. I'm a big Nigel mark. I'm a huge mark for Nigel McGuinness. When Ricky Starks had the chokehold on Danielson, he was there going like, squeal, Peggy, squeal, like turnabout is fair play. This is on you, Danielson. You brought this in. The second that Danielson put the chokehold on Ricky Starks, he was like, oh, you sick man.
Yeah.
You are taking this too far. Was there any need for that?
Didn't Kevin Kelly call him out at one point and he went, 2 wrongs don't make a right, Kevin?
It's so good.
He's really good. I mean, like, look, this is the retirement tour of Bryan. Not to get ahead of my little piece of analysis here, but if this is the Bryan Danielson retirement tour, Nigel McGuinness has really been giving it a lot of this, specifically to Bryan Danielson over the past couple of weeks. And for all we know, he's in quite good shape. There's one of those on the cards over the course of the next year or so, I think.
I'd hope so.
All in London 2023?
Well, I mean, yeah, McGuinness did reveal that, he was in shape, ring ready for what he thought was going to be a match at All In.
Yeah.
That unfortunately didn't happen in the end, probably due to clearances, probably by the end of it. But yeah, I think he's probably still going to be trying to push that he could be in ring ready.
Yeah.
Have another match between Danielson and McGuinness.
Yeah.
I'd be quite into that.
I think it would be quite nice.
In the end, Danielson hit a knee plus while Starks was holding the chair, and he had it sort of in his hands. What we used in the thumbnail, and it hit him right in the head. Got a proper cut just above his eye from that chair because he took it right into the face. Danielson did the stompies and then wrapped the chain around his knee and hit another knee plus. And Starks sold this big time. Laid there, motionless. Aubrey was counted the 10 and Danielson won. But by the end of this match, obviously Danielson was great because Danielson's always great. And you and I have talked about this on Collision for the last month or so. I really came out of this being like, this has just done so good for Starks. He was so hot in December last year during the MJF feud, and there was a worry that he would massively cool off. And I think you can argue that he did cool off. The Jay White feud, I felt, was a way to try and elevate Starks. On paper, that's what it was done for. This is you're putting Ricky Starks against the biggest free agent that's available right now in Jay White. But it never really caught fire in the way that it should have done on paper. But since Collision, the Punk feud did wonders for Ricky Starks. The Owen Hart tournament did wonders for Ricky Starks. And I think this little mini feud with Danielson has done amazing work for him. And I really think that even though he has lost out on both the Punk feud and he's lost within the Danielson feud, he feels like such a bigger star now than he did 5 months ago.
Yeah, I mean, he's I read in one recap, I like to read various people's opinions of the show before coming on to see what the general consensus is and which bits I do and don't agree with. And there was someone who had said, Starks hasn't won a singles match over Danielson in this entire little mini feud.
Just got a pin in the tag match. He pinned Danielson in the tag match.
Yeah, just twice has lost to Danielson. I think that doesn't matter here because both times he didn't pin, he didn't submit. He got the 2 big times. Once at
All Out.
Thank you, and once again last night on Collision or Saturday night on Collision. It was a pass out or just couldn't answer the count of 10.
Proper TKO.
Which is you fought your ass off and managed to last in that way with Bryan Danielson. I think he comes off looking pretty great as a result of it. In the middle of it, JR said something along the lines of, I've never seen Starks this vicious.
He was proper going for it. When they were both in the mount position and just wailing down on each other, it was genuinely brutal stuff.
And he was right. Yeah, exactly that. And I think it's that kind of pushes him over the edge to make him really legit. He's a real star, and it's seeing he's got all of these strings to his bow. There has been a video going around, I don't know if you've seen it on Twitter, of the knee thing.
No, I saw, was this him shouting at a fan?
So what had happened was, I haven't heard what he shouted at the fan, but what happened was he hit Danielson's knee with the chair.
When it was wrapped around the ring post.
Yeah, except he just doesn't. His knee is here and the chair is here. And there are some people being like, this is just rubbish kind of thing. And I was like, I didn't notice in the moment, but also, whatever.
And also, it's from that one angle.
Exactly.
If you film on TV,
angles are,
you cover for these sorts of things.
Yeah, well, that's what the era of the crash zoom was trying to cover a multitude of sins. But
smoke and mirrors.
Yeah, smoke and mirrors. It kind of there's almost something in seeing that go around a little bit that has felt like it almost had people trying to be anti this little moment. I don't know. For me, he's just been a real star. He's really nailed it and has a response for if a moment like that does not go quite as to plan. He seems to have a response for it. And there was a moment where he does the pose, but he's got Danielson's blood all over his hands, which was great. Like, it was a really great visual. There has been, through no fault of Ricky Starks, a lot of whiplash in Collision, right? Whether it's Punk, is he coming, is he going, the controversy with Hangman, the sidebar feud with Samoa Joe, then, Punk is gone, so Danielson comes in, but Danielson's also announcing his retirement, so he's calling out Zack Sabre Jr. We've got to build to that. But in the meantime, Ricky Starks has consistently delivered and met the moment and not allowed any of the extra faff to detract from his continued momentum, whether he's using it in a promo or he's showing in-ring ability and commitment to this heel character that he's got it, right? And it's just, I'm so impressed by him.
You mentioned earlier, like, that he hasn't won a singles match against Danielson in this. Obviously, he beat Punk in the Owen Hart's tournament, so he did have a singles win over the Punker. But so some people would look at that as like, you're not pushing this guy, he's not winning. And wins and losses do matter within the world of professional, no matter what some people try to argue the opposite. But you also can get over and be made to look better in defeat.
Yeah.
That has been a wrestling trope for, I was going to say 30, 40 years, but really since time in memoriam, the idea of getting over in defeat is a real thing. And I think Starks has proven that in both the Punk feud and in the Danielson feud, two feuds that he has not won. He feels more over now than he did before those feuds started. He's a living embodiment of getting over in defeat.
That can be a crutch, this idea that you can lose and still look strong. You can overdo it. I think whatever Starks' next big program is, he deserves to come out of it on top, personally.
Yeah.
But it's dead right. Over the past, he wasn't going to beat Punk for the real world title. That, I think, is where we were going to end up at All Out, wasn't it? That was going to be that match. Then whatever his next feud was, he wasn't winning either the Punk feud or this Danielson feud in absentia.
Particularly because Danielson's going up for Zack Sabre Jr. at WrestleDream.
Exactly, and it's his retirement year kind of thing. So, like, he's going to get a lot of big dubs. So yeah, I would like for his next act, whatever it is, whether it's a tag run with Big Bill, whether it's Big Bill as a henchman, with a run, I would like for him to have a proper, he comes out on top moment.
That's what I'm
asking. Because as you in these losses, he's become a star. He's shown that he deserves to be seen as a bankable attraction.
What you don't want to do is what happened to him in January, which is he was so hot in December, and then you just slowly inching him off the ball, and then before you know it, he's ice cold.
Which is so easily done.
It's very easily done, and it's a tricky balance to get right. But I do think he does need to come out to a big program after this. I made this point with the Orange Cassidy. After he lost the international championship in the main event of All Out, I said to Ollie Davis, like, he needs a big program coming out of this. They need to ride this momentum that Cassidy has had. And I don't think they have to the best degree possible. Like, he's sort of been lurking, almost watching Moxley, like, looking for the potential rematch that you could do. He's now tagging with Hook at WrestleDream in the 4-way, which will be good. But is that the best use of Cassidy after that incredible title run? Probably not.
I would argue it would be better for him to be off camera altogether than do this, which is essentially a complete diversion, something away entirely in an odd couple. I guess they're not that odd couple, but they are kind of odd couple. Tag program with someone who is not really like, on his level kind of thing.
I guess because my prediction is spoilers for this weekend. My prediction is that he and Hook are going to win WrestleDream and go into a feud with FTR over the tag titles. Only because I look at those other three teams and I'm like, all right, well,
you've had a go.
You've had a go. We literally just did the Young Bucks.
Yeah.
Lucha Bros are probably now going to be in a bit of a weird place because Rey Fenix is now the international champion.
Yeah.
And so I'm looking at it, I've been like, Cassidy and Hook. Like you give Cassidy and
Who are
Hook
the
up.
others, by the way?
I was trying to think who the fourth team is, and I cannot.
So there you go.
Yeah.
There's your
Oh,
answer.
it's the Guns.
Oh,
So
God.
So it's definitely not them.
Yeah.
Because
You've had to go.
It was had to go. We did the Guns and FTR
Yeah.
last year. So I look at Cassidy and Hook. I'm like, that's the team that's probably going to win, and that's a fun program. For,
Oh, yeah.
for Cassidy, and it's a great elevation for Hook.
Yeah.
But again, I go back to I don't think that's the best use of Orange Cassidy after that international championship run. Even though Cassidy versus FTR,
Yeah.
and actually Hook versus FTR, I'm in for that.
It's why the follow-up is always kind of more important than the moment kind of thing. Like the idea that I already feel like the international title has been fumbled, like because of the loss. I mean, that's just a personal thing where I'm like, you had this run where he fought for ages and he had to be he almost had to be killed to have it taken from him. You have to break my cold dead hands. You've got that amazing moment, and then 17 days later, Moxley's lost it
Through like that wasn't the plan though.
Sure,
Like
but
that was like I think it's unfair to say that they fumbled that belt when that was not the plan.
right.
That Phoenix was not supposed to win the belt.
We'll do a DQ, I suppose. I don't know. I mean,
but
yeah,
if Moxley's
I
out-
haven't been around for the discourse, so I don't really know what people are saying.
If Moxley's out and he's realised in mid-match,
Hmm.
oh, I'm concussed and I don't think I should be wrestling anymore, and he called the audible, give Phoenix the belt.
Right.
Well, it's the same with Mercedes Moné with Willow Nightingale, which is like,
Right.
I am injured. I'm not going to be able to defend this belt if I win it, so I'll call an audible and I'll lose this match.
That's fair. Either way, I think the tag one is a bit of an odd sideways turn for that.
And to bring us back to Ricky, that's what I'm hoping that we can have, but I don't know what that big program is. I'm sort of looking up and down the card. Like Bullet Club Gold are kind of tied up with Andrade at the moment. There's potentially like a Miro thing you could do. Maybe, I guess, a heel he could go up against. Honestly, I don't know.
Do you think he needs a belt?
I don't think he needs a belt. No, not everyone needs a belt.
No.
I don't think Orange Cassidy needs a belt. Like, I don't think he needs to put him into another title program.
No, but I'm thinking if you're he's now at this point where it's like you go into your next thing. You've shown what you've got. Your next thing, do you need a TNT,
Well, actually, him and Darby.
Yeah.
Because Darby's likely going to win the belt at WrestleDream. It's in Seattle. So Darby wins the TNT Championship, and you could do a program with Darby and Ricky Starks. You could maybe argue that if you want to give Starks the win, you're hot potatoing the title. But the TNT title has become just a hot potato thing for the last 2 years anyway, so I don't think that's going to really change anything.
2 wrongs don't make a right, Kevin.
But it's not what I would do with the TNT Championship. If anything, like Luchasaurus having it for nearly 100 days was a breath of fresh air for that belt.
Yeah, what do you mean? The title hasn't changed hands? I don't understand.
Well, yeah, I mean, I suppose Christian Cage has now held it
for
over 100 days.
So, no, but yeah, I think it's what's next for Ricky Starks.
That's it,
is the big question, because what he has done over the past few months is just prove that he's got talent in abundance. And I think when you have a roster as big as AEW does, it can sometimes feel like some people fall slightly by the wayside after a big program. So good luck, rather you than me.
Someone mentioned in the chat that they didn't remember Ricky Starks feuding with Samoa Joe. Then Punk was feuding with Samoa Joe for a mini brief period of time.
Did I say?
You were talking about like Ricky Starks.
Punk went off sidebar with Samoa Joe.
Yes,
Punk did. Yeah,
I think some people thought you were saying that Ricky Starks had a sidebar.
No. Ricky's been on the straight and narrow.
Let's get into your Stark remarks here. WrestleTalk.com/support. We'll read out all of them above the $5 amount. And Will here says, for the last little while, I've been thinking that Ricky was turned heel to keep Punk babyface. But since the start of him feuding with Steamboat, I've got to say that this heel turn is probably the best thing that's happened for him in AEW.
Yeah, I think it's quite possibly that's what happened. But like, when you lean in like this, I mean, he was getting big reactions. I remember at the beginning of Collision anyway. So people had quite a lot of affection, and then it felt a bit odd that he did such a cheaty thing to win. And then it was like, what's it going to be? Is it double down? Is he going to double down? Is he going to be like? Is it going to be a weird production choice? And then it was like, oh no, you're just going to lean into this character. And then once you've leaned in so hard and you've done such a good job with it, you should be allowed to run off with it and go off on one.
Hannah Allen here just. Adam! Hello, lovelies. The Omega chat goes out to Nick Wayne's mum. What a week for AEW. Each show has had its own flavor for me, and I've digged all of them. WrestleDream looks fantastic as well. Stony Torm should have won that title. Show Attack, lots of love. Jam that jam. Joe, hashtag Adam. Yeah, we were all big into Tony Storm, but Ollie Davis was the, I would say, the Dan Layton of that review by saying that he didn't like the... I'm only saying that because you're the only person in the room who doesn't like Eddie Kingston.
No.
No, I'm pretty sure we're all in agreement, right? Like that's all what we took away from last week's Collision review. Wasn't
you
it?
weren't here last week. Last week I gave it big praise. I was this is how you showcase Eddie Kingston. Eddie Kingston's not the problem. Odd promos are the problem. I'm not gonna have this. I'm not gonna let you feed the chat and feed the people who have these weird backwards opinions about my backwards opinions. Two wrongs don't make a right, Kevin.
Kid Cuddy here says, the States don't seem to rock with AEW like you guys do. I was listening to the Ringer Wrestling podcast, and they said the Dynamite Grand Slam wasn't a full building. So my question is, what can AEW do to improve their attendance? Or should they just stay niche for the hardcore fans? First, I don't know what the first part of that is, because I listened to 3 different wrestling podcasts from the States, and they all like AEW in the same way that we do.
Well, I think it's... I don't know if it's quite a literal reading in that regard, so much as it is, because the chat goes on to point out about attendance.
Well, we've only had one show, and that was the Wembley show.
Yeah, I think that's it.
So I don't think that's... I don't think you can point to Wembley and say, like, England are way more into AEW than the States are.
Yeah.
Because
I mean, even
that was a spectacle event.
And even in the trickiest periods of WWE, we were still, but they'd come to the O2 and we'd still pack it out.
They sold out 90 odd, 78,000 people, I think it was for SummerSlam 92.
Yeah.
In 1992, when the company was not hot.
Yes, yeah. It's because we don't get it that often, so you can't really. It is comparing apples and oranges slightly.
Yeah.
I think when it comes, there's a real attendance downturn at the moment. These pictures of Collision that are all over the internet are, and Dynamite as well, actually do show not just a portion of the hard cam side, but an entire section of the arena, and then all the way kind of around the back, and you can see that. Tom Scott once made a video, I might have said this before, Tom Scott, who's a brilliant YouTuber, made a video about a title sequence that he loved for a show called It'll Be Alright on the Night, and within that kind of shared a few anecdotes about TV production, and if a crowd exists, the TV producers will show you. If they don't show you the crowd, but you still hear applause, that applause is probably canned. So if they are there, they'll want to show you. So the lights would be on in a big way, but they aren't currently in Collision. They never turn the lights off a massive swathe of crowd. So that's a very legitimate thing. The crowds are less than, I think it was something like 8,000 seats available for Grand Slam. Don't quote me on that figure.
Specifically compared to last year and then the year previous to that.
Yeah. Now, I don't think that's a cause for hand-wringing. I don't think that's a sign of, it's all downhill from here. They've just lost the crowd in any way. The massive deal they've just got from Warner Brothers would go to show that there's value in the company and in the product. And again, WWE has been through this, and right now they're a hot ticket. They're selling out arenas all over the place, doing better business than they've done in a long, long time.
Tell that to Vince McMahon. The business had really stagnated.
I genuinely read that and had to pace around the room. Like, that was so infuriating. That's if you've ever wondered what gaslighting is, that's what it is.
It was such a beautiful thing for him to say. I had to come back. The business was really stagnating.
Honestly, you guys weren't doing it. You needed me.
God, did you see
the delusion? The delusion, the narcissism. Allegedly. Anyway, so yeah, business comes and business goes. Right now, AEW in America aren't the hot ticket.
They're not.
There is something in the... I don't know what the cost of living situation is like in America. They run the same venues a lot. They are branching out a lot more. I think WrestleDream in Seattle, I don't know how regularly they've been to Seattle.
They've done Seattle a handful of times, but it's not like a regular hotbed for them. Like,
and Full Gear's in LA.
Yeah, that's in LA.
And have they done LA?
They've not done LA massively.
Right. So it's like, new markets, things like that. I wonder if they'll have a slightly bigger crowd. And it's just a case of, it's cyclical. All you can do is book good shows. If you book them, they will come. If you do entertaining stories, if you build compelling characters that people want to see, then people will come and see the show.
As Wayne's World 2 told us, if you book
them, they will come.
Will come.
Yeah.
And I think it comes down to two things. One of which, as you mentioned there, is that they're not a hot product at the moment. And if you're not a hot product, you're not selling tickets for it. 5 years ago, WWE was not a hot product, and images were being shared around of Raw tapings with empty seats, SmackDown tapings with even more empty seats, because they were struggling to sell tickets because they were not a hot product. You fast forward 5 years, and here they are now, the hottest product going, even though the shows aren't really that great at the moment. Like Raw's a bland show, SmackDown, while has had some fun with John Cena, has really missed Roman Reigns, but it's a hot product, so people are buying to go and see it, and people are buying to go and see the TV shows and the pay-per-views. But on top of that, it is not a hot product, and ticket prices are more expensive than what they were last year or the year previous. Because they're a growing company with a much larger roster with bigger stars, ticket prices have increased in the same way that all companies and live events do. Like, you start at this price here because that is what your fan base, that's the fan base you're trying to get them in. But you do need to grow as a company, and inflation is a real thing. So you start charging higher price tickets. So if you're not a hot product and you're charging more for it, you are going to sell less tickets. Like, that is just, that's maths. Like, that's simple economics.
Yeah.
So that is why I think it is. I wouldn't. I'd agree with you. I would not say it is alarm bells ringing. Like, this company's going to be down the toilet by December 2023 because they just can't sell out any buildings anymore. Because they won't be. No. They've just signed a $1 billion deal with Warner Bros. Like, they are fine for like the next 5 years once again. But you do have to turn that around at some point. And the best thing to do there is, if you book them, they will come.
And I don't mean to be the same person I always am, but a lot of it's to do with the build. No, it's like part of the reason that WWE, where you're right, the weekly shows do feel very samey. They're not offensively bad in the way that Roman Reigns and some dog dinner was bad. But they are like a little bit samey, a little bit like whatever. But you kind of know that you're like, should we go and see that show tonight? We'll have fun. We'll have a laugh. We'll enjoy ourselves. When you don't have that level of consistency and that level of a reason to be like, I have to be in the room. Like with your big shows, like with your WrestleDream, they tell me I'm going to get Bryan Danielson and Zack Sabre Jr. There's a part of me that feels like I have to be in the room, Which is weird as well, because it is the least selling pay-per-view that they'll have done since the pandemic. The other side of it, and this has just entered my head, and this is almost an entirely separate podcast, but like the WWE is quite a broad church. It's like families, it's like it's kids as well, it's dare I say it, casuals and all the rest. Whereas AEW does cater to a more like passionate, rabid
wrestling fan.
Yeah, like, well, I mean, when I was in I'm a wrestling fan. I like WWE. When I was in Wembley, wandering around before All In, I did hear someone go, "I think AEW is just like actual wrestling fans like it, rather than people who just like television." And I was like, "Oh my god, people exist in the world that say this." Like, fine. Yeah. I don't agree that it's wrestling fans versus WWE fans. I think that's a little bit of every fandom has one of those things of like, you're a Drag Race fan or you're a drag fan, or like, you're a movies fan or you're a Star Wars fan, like whatever. But there is something about the technicality and like the specificity of some of Tony Khan's booking, because he is a fan of that particular brand of wrestling, who does spend a lot of time on Cage Match, or does, that we do, kind of thing. Ironic that he's always talking about not wanting granular analysis when he's one of us. Like, I feel like. So there's something about, once again, broadening it out. That's why Chris Jericho's on there. That's why Jim Ross was there for a while, because you'd be flicking around and it's Chris Jericho and Jim Ross. I remember that. That's casting a broad net.
RVD was booked on this show.
Exactly.
Not only that, because it's Michigan, so they're in his home state.
And I don't see any of that as a bad thing, by the way. It's just, right now, it feels like there's a catering to the more hardcore kind of fan base.
And I think that
which is not necessarily a bad thing.
I don't think it's a bad thing either. Like, it has served them well. It's served them well since 2018. Like, when they did All In, it served them well in the first year, the second year, and it's and then it sort of served them throughout the pandemic as well. But it's and actually coming out of the pandemic, it's served them really well. They have their audience, but that audience will fluctuate. Yeah. The great thing that WWE has, and when I said it's wrestling fans like AEW. WWE have always said they're not wrestling. They're sports entertainment.
You're wrestling, Vince. Fuck off. Sorry.
Daniel.
Made it half an hour. I made it half an hour.
Daniel.
I just hate that.
You say it's Vince, but Triple H says it.
Yeah,
you know,
he's
like,
been brainwashed.
Because like that's their lexicon, is that they are not they're not a wrestling show. They're a sports entertainment show. They're not wrestlers. They're sports entertainers. And the great thing about sports entertainment and the idea of always appealing to kids, and actually, I mean, it's a genius business move, really. There's always kids. Kids always exist.
Why do you think Happy Meals are a thing?
Oh, why do you think like driving instructor is one of the most like reliable jobs you can ever have? Because there's always going to be 17-year-olds needing to drive and wanting to learn how to drive. Yeah, Happy Meal has been an institution for so many years because there are always kids. And if those kids become 10 years old and decide I'm too old for wrestling, it's fine because there's a 5-year-old that's just got into wrestling. And so you just keep that perpetual audience up. And that's a lesson learned. I mean, we're going way off topic here now, but like we'll talk about Collision in a bit. But that's the Attitude Era is often seen as the biggest boon period for them. But the second that those teenagers and those young adults lost interest in wrestling, all just left.
Yeah.
And then what were you left with? You were left with dwindling numbers, dwindling attendance numbers, dwindling pay-per-view numbers, dwindling merch sales, because you had appealed to teenagers and young adults, and then all of a sudden they decided they just didn't like wrestling anymore. And I think you can even look at YouTube numbers of this sort of the wrestling landscape. Numbers for YouTube videos about New Japan, Ring of Honor, even AEW were bigger 3 years ago, bigger 4 years ago than they are now, because a lot of those people stopped watching wrestling for whatever reason. They just stopped watching and never came back. And maybe they'll come back. Maybe it was the pandemic that took them out. Maybe it was Brawl Out that took them out. Whatever it is, it's just not as big as it once was. So if you're appealing to the hardcore market like Tony Khan has done, that is going to fluctuate a lot more than appealing to a rotating cast of kid characters that are always going to go to your show and buy the t-shirt for whichever babyface you've told them is the best babyface this week.
And we've all had lapses, to your point. Every wrestling fan really has gone through a phase of not watching it as much as they used to, or missing it entirely and then coming back. Like that, it's just cyclical. It's how it happens. I don't see it as anything to worry about.
No, I wouldn't either. Let's get into Collision. We had our usual promo rounding things off of Darby, Christian, Ricky, and Danielson all cutting their promos, which I very much enjoy.
The little crowd, I think the crowd mics were on this time for the first time in these opening promos than I remember, which I really enjoyed because it meant you get a nice little pop for each person popping up on screen. Like it I don't know, added something. They've not done it before, but I really liked it.
I'm going to mention some t-shirts later on as well, so I'm going to save that t-shirt chat for a little bit.
Okay, well, what a tease.
Also, actually, should just point out as well, bit of admin that we need to do here. A lot of people watch the 3 counts.
Oh yeah,
from last week, in which I made a very funny joke. And okay, so here's what happened. 2 weeks ago, you made this pitch on the Raw podcast that was Alba Fire and Isla Dawn placed a curse, an actual curse,
a witchy curse
on the women's tag titles. And we all thought it was hilarious.
It was a legitimate pitch.
Genuinely brilliant idea.
Thank you.
And it's very, very funny. We all had a good laugh with it here, and we had a good laugh with it in the live chat. We've then since continued that on, and we just talked about it on other podcasts and stuff. So in my mind, that's just WrestleTalk lore.
Yeah.
So that is just part of the WrestleTalk lexicon. I
am very influential in that regard.
Yeah. So I'm like, we've joked about it in the office and stuff. It's just become part of the zeitgeist of WrestleTalk in my mind. So when we did the 3 count, I was like, place Kurt's on belts. And, we said it's actually cut out of the episode. It was like, it's something we talked about in the podcast. They're actually witches and they placed the curse on the belt.
Well, release the footage. Release the Snyder Cut of 3 count.
And then, well, it's too long. Honestly,
I imagine so.
That record, I think, was like 50 minutes. And we had to, there's actually entries in there that we just trimmed out, not even just the people that were released. There were like other entries like, that's not funny. No. Like that, we need to get this down under 20 minutes. So cut. We were very vicious with it. And it wasn't until Saturday morning when I woke up and had loads of people message me and like, you predicted the witch curse thing. And I was like, oh no, oh, people think it was my idea. Oh no, people think it was my idea.
Posterity shows.
And so and there's only when you shared that video, I was like, nah, I'm going to lean into this.
Yeah. Oh, I'm going to, by the way, this doesn't count, because the people who watch Collision don't watch Dynamite, don't watch Raw. We're all, I know there's some crossover. I'm going to read you to filth tomorrow. You just wait.
Yeah,
and
that's absolutely fine because I will do the apology once again on that show. I'll do it again I'll do it on this show. I'll do it again on that show.
All right.
If you want. I'll probably get cut out of the episode because we've got to keep them under 20 minutes. I guess I'll do it on the 3 cam. We'll do that. We're like, nah, we'll cut that bit.
No, I'll let you have it. This one time.
We kicked off our broadcast with a fantastic triple threat match, which, if this was JR in 1998, would have said, it's nothing more than a damn handicap match. As Christian Cage and Luchasaurus faced off against Darby Allin for the TNT Championship. I really loved on Dynamite when Christian set this match up. He even said, so at Collision, when we have our triple threat match.
He's so good.
It's amazing. And I loved this match so much. I love this story. I love Cage and Luchasaurus. I love Nigel going on about Christian being Father of the Year. All of this was absolutely pitch perfect. I have got, for me, this is a segment, 10 out of 10, no notes, but also I've written lots of notes.
Well, yeah, I saw your big paragraph. I didn't want to cut you off in the middle of it because I just completely agree. I think it was the dynamic of it being a triple threat match. Obviously, it's a handicap match, but it was playing into the idea of triple threat rules and the triple threat match in a way that I haven't seen for a while, if ever, kind of thing that I really enjoyed, because we've had this whole thing of Christian Cage holding the belt, not actually being the champ, right?
He even came out with the belt. He came out second on this because he's not the champion, but he had the belt. And you get that brilliant moment in the comments like, despite the fact he is wearing that belt, ladies and gentlemen, Christian Cage is not the TNT champion.
And then you get the giant TNT Championship logo for Luchasaurus' entrance that they do when you're a champion. You get the big belt on the screens. So, then when the match begins, you have them effectively acting as a handicap match. And there's a moment where Lucha goes for a pin, and Cage is just like, "No, get out. We're not finished yet. We can batter him more." I'll just sneak a little pin in here.
The second that Luchasaurus leaves the ring, Christian tries to sneak a pin in there.
Just in case, kind of thing. They really, to the point where I kept forgetting, and as I have this whole time, I kept forgetting that Luchasaurus isn't the champion. Is the champ? Well, he's not anymore. But this is what I'm saying. They've done it. They've played it so well, and the idea of it, honestly, is so stupid. Christian Cage isn't the champion, has no claim to the championship, but has been holding it this whole time to the point where I forget that. And then you get the incredible moment where Lucha holds the title for the first time.
First time he's actually had his hands on the TNT Championship.
And then he turned away. He's holding it, and his eyes are so much like Gollum Precious on the belt that Cage comes over, and he just sort of turns away from him.
Yeah. Christian was able to be like, "Oh, can you hand that back to me?" And Lucha just goes like, "Oh, actually,
yeah.
Look at this belt a little bit longer." So Cage has to plead with his right hand of destruction. I'm just like, no, this is not the way that we're gonna win this match, and so you can, we can retain the TNT Championship. And then they had a near fall off the back of that because they got hit with a belt shot. And then Darby hits the coffin drop. Christian sneaks in, throws Darby out the ring, and he pins Luchasaurus. Officially is now the TNT Championship. His master plan worked. Because that's a genius move by Christian Cage. He wants to be the champion. He knows he's not really the TNT champion, but has been telling people that he is. So how do you get out of the belt? I book a triple threat match that I'm involved in. Because if I just do a singles match with Luchasaurus, I'm winning that.
Right.
But we can work together and beat one guy up, and then I can steal the pin.
Ultimate opportunist.
And he's now officially the TNT champion. I loved everything about this. Because so good.
It's that recognition from him that is me. I think probably seeing the belt in Luchasaurus' hands and seeing his eyes go to it, he recognizes his meal ticket is fragile, right? He's like, you could sort of turn on me a little bit. So I'm going to double down and make sure I win this match, and I'm going to pin the champ to do it. There's so many elements to that, to the way this all shook out. I just loved it. And then you have Luchasaurus looking like a dejected puppy, being like, I'll still lift you on my shoulders. Like,
Yeah.
I was a little bit heartbroken for him.
Nigel McGuinness as well, because they were talking about, like, how's Luchasaurus going to feel about this? And Nigel says, and this is a direct quote, as long as he gets his food in his bowl tonight, he'll be happy.
There you go.
And because in Nigel's mind and in Christian's mind, he is nothing but a pet.
Yeah.
A very vicious, violent pet that is winning matches on your behalf. But it's now going to, and they set this up later on, it's going to be a 2 out of 3 falls match against Darby Allin at WrestleDream in Seattle. Darby's home city, I don't know what Seattle is. Oh, Washington
Yeah.
State. In his home city. I think that'll be where Darby finally does get the win. Well, maybe we'll save that for the prediction show, because I think there's some big things to talk about there. Maybe we'll talk about it a little bit later on as well. But I this is 5 out of 5 for me, 10 out of 10, no notes. I particularly enjoyed the moment where they had an upright chair. It's like a chair in a seated position, and Darby's head chin was resting over it. And then Luchasaurus did a German suplex while Darby was holding on to that. So he just landed in this German suplex horribly, and the chair was just like around him as well. It was like nuts.
A little bit brutal.
It was beautiful Darby ragdolling. I love Darby Allin.
I don't want to see Christian versus Darby again, because I feel like I've seen it loads, even though I actually haven't, because I've seen Darby versus Luchasaurus. That's, again, goes back. I when they announced that, I was like, oh, but I've seen this loads, and Darby's lost each time. And it's like, hang on, no, there have been shenanigans the whole way through. I don't want to see it, because I feel like I've seen it loads, and I'm enjoying Christian so much that I think you're right, probably will be Darby winning. I'd like them to move on to something new. Then again, it's so close to WrestleDream that you might as well. It's an interesting one, but I think the work has been really good from all of them.
We had a recap of Sammy's promo from Rampage with Takeshita running down and Omega chasing them off. And then Marvez interviewed Don Callis, Takeshita, and Sammy. And they announced that Kota Ibushi will be joining this 6-man tag at WrestleDream. And the family are going to bring Will Ospreay to proceedings. So it is going to be Takeshita, Sammy Guevara, and Will Ospreay versus Chris Jericho, Kenny Omega, and Kota Ibushi. I think there's a really easy way to fix this match and make it a lot more palatable, and that is to remove Chris Jericho and Sammy Guevara from it and just give me Kenny and Kota versus Takeshita and Will.
At the very least, it all makes sense. Like, I can understand why they're all there.
Absolutely. I've got zero interest in seeing them a part of it, though.
Right. Yeah, I mean, other than Guevara's glasses being excellent in this promo, I loved them. The big blue.
Yeah.
Oh, fabulous.
I can't wait for Ollie Davis to get back from holiday. For more than one, more reasons than other, I miss him. But, similarly to that, he
can't hear you.
And he won't watch this. He doesn't watch any of the product we put out. He gets so hot under the collar about the fumbling of Sammy Guevara and the bad babyface turns that have just led to even worse heel turns. So when Sammy turned heel, there was part of me being like, oh, I can't wait for Ollie to get back and find out that Sammy's heel again. He's gonna lose his mind. And he will. He will come out. And I say he'll lose his mind. What he'll do is go, oh, for fuck's sake.
Yeah, basically.
Not the swear there. Do apologize.
It's all right. Well, it's Collision. It's looser.
We then got the announcement that it's Cage and Darby at WrestleDream in a 2 out of 3 falls match. And then we got 2.0 taking on Hook and Rob Van Dam. So, right at the start of this show, they were panning through the crowd.
Oh, was this t-shirts?
And there was someone wearing the APA Always Pounding Ass t-shirt.
Amazing.
And then
I didn't spot it.
Rob Van Dam comes out to Pantera's Walk, which I'm still popping for, even though it's like the 3rd time it's happened. I'm still, every time I'm like, yay, he's coming out to Walk by Pantera. And they're just, and everyone's doing the respect, and everyone's joining in with the lyrics and stuff. And it just pans around. And then I saw a guy wearing a Korn t-shirt. And I'm like, these are my people. These were the Always Pounding Ass guy, the Korn t-shirt. We're all singing Pantera. This is my tribe.
Oh, Luke Owen is big in Michigan. You have no idea.
Turns out, this is where I should have been all along.
There it is.
Is in Michigan. Who knew? So
You love a lake as well.
I do actually.
There are loads of lakes there.
When my wife and I had our honeymoon in Canada, one of our favorite things was to just go swimming in every lake we possibly could.
I remember. I listen when Luke tells me stories.
So, yeah. Guess what? I loved this match.
Yeah.
And all it was... okay, here are my notes for this match. It's cute. Kevin Kelly talked about how in 2001, RVD teamed with Taz, and now here he is in 2023 teaming with Taz's son. That's a lovely little bit of cuteness.
In the same building, I believe, is what he said. I don't know if I misheard it, but it sounded like he said they did it in the same building.
Oh, that's even more cute.
Yeah.
But for me, it was a moment when Nigel McGuinness said, I spoke with Jerry Lynn earlier, because Jerry Lynn's one of the producers and agents in AEW, and he said, because they had wars in ECW, did Lynn and RVD, and he said, the one thing you need to do with RVD is avoid those kicks. And I was like, that is both in kayfabe and real life.
Yeah,
because there's one thing that's always said about RVD is that he thinks the best way to make a kick look real is to kick you in the face. And so guess what? RVD kicked these two lads in the face a lot, really hard, and then they won. And then I wrote in my notes here in all caps, that was awesome.
Yeah. I mean, it was nothing special. It was nothing,
it was not.
But it was really effective. And it was a good use of your RVD hometown pop. And since he's around, you might as well. A moment of appreciation for Hook's gear. I really like Hook's look. I always have. I think that it's different. And I love the white boots especially. I watched an RVD match from 1997 yesterday against Jeff Hardy. Because of spoilers, the list for this week is best cross-promotional matches. So I was, figuring out the 97 one when RVD popped up on Raw and became Mr. Monday Night. And that was the genesis of that. And it honestly is like he's not really missed a step. Like, he obviously looks a lot older. His body is a different shape because your body changes when you grow older. But he's hitting these moves pretty effectively 20 plus years later. 25 years later.
It's because he's really kicking people.
Well, there you go. He's kicking people, so it doesn't need to... It's work hard, work smart. Supplements clearly work. He's so good for him. The practice of yoga.
He just battered these two lads with various different kicks. Hit all of his signature spots. Hit the 5-star frog splash while Hook had the Taz mission on. 5-star match for me. I had a great time with it. And this was here for the live crowd.
Yeah, it did the job.
It's for a casual audience that are flicking through and be like, oh, I remember Rob Van Dam.
Yeah.
But really, this is just... And WWE did this last year, and I really enjoyed this little run they did with it. It was like, oh, we're going to be in Pittsburgh. So Kurt Angle's booked on the show. Come and see Pittsburgh's own Kurt Angle. And this was just to sell tickets to the event. Come and see Michigan's own Rob Van Dam.
Yeah.
He trained here.
Yeah, it worked really well.
Good stuff. Got a recap of Claudio and Dan's least favorite wrestler in the world, Eddie Kingston. And Eddie then did a promo about defending the title against Shibata, which I'm sure Dan didn't enjoy.
I actually wrote, will you read this? Will you read this thing of it?
He said, I hated this promo.
You are fake news. I said it's the most effective way of showing off Eddie Kingston. I really liked this promo. There are, however, too many belts.
I've had, if you check the comments on today's WrestleTalk news video, a lot of people are calling me fake news today as well.
What have you told them?
Well, so because Rick Boogs did a video on YouTube saying that, I got fired because Vince is not in charge anymore.
Yeah.
Effectively is what he was. And then at one point insinuated that Triple H was behind, him not getting a push and him being released. So I ran that as a story and I was like, clickbait.
I don't think people know what clickbait is.
People have lost all meaning of that. It's like the word build. I feel like it is now just lost all meaning.
You are clickbaiting by reporting the news.
Dark Order cut a promo. But it was nowhere near as good as the Kingdom cutting a promo about the importance of neck health.
Neck health.
And they are on a drive to hit everyone with pile drivers for neck health awareness.
A pile driver drive.
I really enjoyed this. This is great.
It's a thing that felt like complete nonsense has been turned into beautiful nonsense, and I appreciate it.
He's got Matt Taven's got a band on that says neck health awareness.
Strong, that is great.
Oh, it's great. The neck strong, I love it. So good. We then had Julia Hart versus Kiera Hogan. This is to set up the fact that Julia Hart challenged Chris Statlander for the TBS Championship for WrestleDream. So there's your one women's match for the pay-per-view card. And that's because she's on a 25-match winning streak. Now 26 because she beat Kiera Hogan here.
3 minutes and 35 seconds. Back to business as usual then.
Oh, yeah.
Off we go.
Was it really 3 minutes?
3 minutes and 35 seconds.
Honestly, I'd have told you 7.
Would you?
Yeah, because it was nothing happened and it was all on a commercial break. So I'd have just said I bet you that was probably 7 minutes.
Nah.
No. Man. Yeah, that's fine. Sky Blue came out to help afterwards because Hart locked in her submission again, but she killed her too. And then Brody King cut a promo challenging Chris Statlander to a match at WrestleDream.
Which I will enjoy watching.
Yeah. And it's Julia Hart versus William Nightingale on Wednesday. I saw someone on the old Twitter machine with my thick take for the week saying, like, I don't care if Julia Hart's challenged for the belt. Willow needs to win here. I was like, that is not how you build someone, sir. That's actually a terrible idea, to give Willow a pointless win over Julia Hart if the story you're telling is that Julia Hart is on a winning streak going up against Chris Statlander, the final boss.
I mean, Willow will probably win, though, let's be honest. They don't care.
When it comes to winning streaks, and when it comes to wins and losses mattering, it's the one time of the year that AEW do care about their women's division. When you accidentally fall into these ones. We've got a recap of the Righteous getting the ROH title match at WrestleDream, which Dave Meltzer was particularly down on Wrestling Observer Radio. But I wouldn't agree with you, because just do the Kingdom match already. Right. It's like, we're building to the Kingdom match. Just do the Kingdom match. However, I very much enjoyed this video package.
I was really happy with them getting married like that and sharing it with us. Yeah. You know, they're wearing white suits, prattling around a garden with a gazebo. It was a wedding video, and it was lovely. Yeah,
delightful.
Good for them.
I'm very happy for Vincent and Dutch. We got Jay White versus Andrade El Idolo, who had a war.
Instantly, can I just say, Switchboard is a far funnier name than Cardblade. I don't know why I had never thought of that.
Switchboard is way better.
Switchboard is so much better. Yeah. Well done, Kevin Kelly.
Kevin Kelly's the man.
Yeah.
This was a war. It was awesome, and the crowd was super duper into it as well. Like, these two went out there. Like, it was a fairly hot matchup anyway, because Andrade has found his fire again since Collision's come back. Collision's done wonders for Jay White in AEW. So this did feel like, wow, these are two of the biggest stars on Collision going one-on-one. So the crowd were already into that. Then they just had this awesome match, and it was like the crowd. The longer it went, the more the crowd got into it, and because you had this. The FTR WorkHorsemen match, and then the main event.
It was a nice final hour.
A three-match stretch. It was like a really great final 45 minutes to this broadcast. And man, this was such a good match. The finish saw Andrade hit the hammerlock DDT, but Juice put Jay's foot on the ropes. Andrade then...
Which was so smooth, by the way. Like, the way Juice sort of just popped up and got his foot on the rope and popped away, the ref wouldn't have noticed that. So often that can look really clunky. They did such a good job there.
Yeah, and then Andrade got in the figure eight, but the Bullet Club Gold distracted the referee. Juice Robinson slid into the ring and clocked Andrade with the Collision Cowboy of the Month award. And then Jay, and I loved Jay's selling of this. Jay wanted to hit the Blade Runner for the win to make sure that he was putting Andrade down, because this has been a war. I know you don't know how much Andrade can take. And he could not stand up because the figure eight had taken everything out of him. So he was using the ropes, he had the neck hold on, and he was getting up, and then he finally hit the Blade Runner, struggled to hit it. It put over Andrade massively and gave Jay a big win. Loved this.
In many ways, the figure eight is the most protective move in two companies now. Also, I keep calling it the spicy figure eight because, there's suggestion that they might have split up. So every time he...
Is there?
Yeah. She's taken the ring out of her profile, and he's been posting things of him with no ring either. And way. Yeah, that looks like... So if they've split and he's using the figure eight on telly, it's spicy. But hopefully not. You know, hopefully they're okay.
I don't know where people see these things.
Yeah.
Because, like, I was on Twitter on Friday, and all of a sudden there was this thing with Shawn Michaels.
Oh, because he liked a thing of Stephanie's.
Yeah, he liked a thing that was burying Stephanie McMahon. And as it turns out, Shawn Michaels does not run his own Twitter account. So it was just whoever was running his Twitter account is the person that liked this, because a lot of famous people do not run their Twitter accounts. If anything, I should probably hand mine off to a professional, because otherwise it's me doing it and I can post up Partridge-esque content. But when I was checking that out, all of a sudden, apparently there's like rumors that Triple H and Stephanie are like split up.
I've never
heard of that either.
No.
And there's a lot of people being like, here's all the evidence that shows this. Like, where do these people come from?
Sometimes
and where do these people find these things?
Sometimes I think I'm too online. And then I see people who are online all the time seeing what Shawn Michaels has liked on Twitter. I'm all right. I'm all right. But... to bring it back to the match and take it away from speculating about people's private lives, which I always tell people off for doing and then do anyway because I am a filthy hypocrite. This was sick. Like, the match was so good. They were evenly paced the whole way through. There was Jay White's Uranagi looked so crisp. Some really, really good moves here.
Spinning Uranagi's
it's beautiful. It's a thing of beauty, as was one of the highest moonsaults I've ever seen in my life, which had that beautiful arch all the way over to Bullet Club Gold, who all seem to be like hyenas, and Jay White is Scar. Do you know what I mean?
I actually saw someone on Twitter say, Juice and the Guns are the hyenas.
They are
from The Lion King.
That's my little note there. And Jay White is Scar. That's exactly it. Because there was a moment where they came around, they sort of started cackling at him, and I was like, that's what this has reminded me of the whole time.
Which one's Whoopi Goldberg?
Juice Robinson.
That makes sense.
Oh no, wait, wrong. Juice Robinson is the other one. Whoopi Goldberg is Long Hair Gun.
Right.
Who I think is the chillest of them all, which is saying something.
Yeah.
But yeah, loved it.
Such a good match. Really, really great. And it did a great job for Jay White. Really enjoying Jay in AEW now, and I'm really enjoying this renewed passion from Andrade as well. Actually, Moonsault to the Floor is another Charlotte spot.
It is, yeah.
Landing on your feet, no less. Got a recap of Santana and Ortiz having their showdown on Rampage, and it makes me very sad that they're not a tag team. But Santana and Ortiz both cut very good promos. And then my boy Shane Taylor cut a cool promo on Keith Lee as well. Really like this, where he talked about how, they were a tag team in Ring of Honor. And Keith Lee left to go and work for the other billionaire, and I stayed in Ring of Honor to become a legend. And he set up a match between Keith Lee and Lee Moriarty for next week. And I'm very much liking this.
It's interesting because I don't, we were having that conversation about people who are hardcore wrestling fans who watch all the wrestling. I don't, right? I watch a lot. I watch more than most. I don't watch every promotion. I don't know every angle. I don't know every wrestler. I had no idea Shane Taylor and Keith Lee had a thing because I don't watch ROH.
It was like 2013.
A lot of these things are very peripheral for me, right? So it's like I'm aware of them. Like I was aware of Shinsuke Nakamura. I've always been aware of an AJ Styles and maybe dipped in and out of TNA and Impact. And then, when they pop up in the same way that I was aware of Kenny Omega, and because Jericho was fighting him at Wrestle Kingdom, I watched Wrestle Kingdom and discovered who Kenny Omega was. And so by the time he comes around, I'm excited. That's how ROH feels a lot of the time. And you can't expect your average fan to know everything. So when you deliver a little tiny promo like this that gives that kind of, here's why this match is not just a match kind of thing, it really gives you a little something extra, something special. I
said this about when they had the Kingdom align with Roderick Strong. I said to Ollie, I was like, they need to have a video package explaining who the Kingdom are and what they're, and because that's Adam Cole's faction. Yeah. It's like, so you need to explain to the audience who weren't watching Ring of Honor what the connection is between Cole and the Kingdom. And then they did do that video package on Rampage, on a show that not as many people watch. And I was like, why is this not on Collision? Or, more importantly, why is it not on Dynamite, the most watched show you do?
They did it with Eddie Kingston and Claudio. I don't know that history, but they showed it to us in the very effective Eddie Kingston promo that I put over big time last week on Collision when Luke wasn't here. It was really effective. It showed us why they're having a go, and it was this brilliant use of a fantastic wrestler in the name of Eddie Kingston. So yeah, it's good. Do more of that. I like it.
We then got the WorkHorsemen versus FTR for the AEW World Tag Team Championships. This is part of FTR's open challenge of just like younger teams, newer teams step up because we want to get the best out of this tag team division. And when this match was announced, a lot of people were down on this, down on the WorkHorsemen getting a shot at the tag titles. They just had a sprint of a match, and it was designed to show you why it was a good idea to book this match. And the WorkHorsemen, again in defeat, got hugely over off the back of this, in the same way that the Bear Bronson and the Boulder did last week. This was great. I really, really like this.
Yeah, the match, it's almost like two things to talk about, which is one is the match and then one is all the extra stuff. Because I think, for me, especially, my take was never why they're getting the opportunity, because I'm the same as you. I love this kind of open challenge, this idea that young tags are able to have a come up.
It was the problem you and I had with the NXT open challenge last week, which was like, Becky Lynch was like, I want someone new to step up, and Natalia walked, 18-year veteran of WWE, Natalia walked, and you're like, yeesh, man, this is not quite what I'm after from this.
Yeah, but I liked I liked what we saw from Iron Savages. I've always, from the past few weeks, like they just popped up in my periphery, and I was like, oh, a big Hoss tag team, I'm here. This was another example of that. There's a big Hoss guy doing a moonsault, which I'm always a fan of, even if I'm seeing it a lot lately. But the match itself was really, really good, really, really effective, and I don't think anyone should really complain about younger tag teams getting the opportunity to showcase what they've got, because how do you get over if you don't get to showcase what you've got?
I will never understand the argument. Right? Of like, why are we doing this match? I don't know who these people are. It's like, well, that's why you're putting them on TV, to show you who they are.
It's like whenever there's I always talk about it with the women's division in WWE. It's like, if you pop in a three-way women's match, and one of them is someone you've booked for a while, like a Raquel Rodriguez, and then the other one is Tegan Knox, and the other one is Indy Hartwell. It's like, well, these two haven't been on TV much, so we haven't got a reason to buy into them. You put them on TV, you get a reason. Oh, I liked those. It happened with the Iron Savages, right? Yeah. It will happen with the Workhorsemen if they continue to get showcased, because I really enjoyed what they had to offer. That's one side of it. The other side of it, where I think there is active and legitimate criticism, is Aussie Open not seeming to care about the tag team titles, or rather them being booked in such a way that they are forced into this weird logic vacuum where they are pressed by Nigel McGuinness on the commentary, and they haven't got a good enough answer, because there isn't a good enough answer, which is that they said basically, whether you have the tag titles or not, we want to challenge you to prove that we're the best in the world. Well, if you believe that the people with the tag team titles are the best in the world, then you should want to go for the tag team titles. If they've lost the tag team titles, then they've already had their best in the world aura chipped away. So really, how are you showing off how impressive you are when you're just picking at the scraps like vultures, right? So that's the problem. And then also you have this whole thing of where it's like, Nigel's been like, do you want the tag title? The AEW World Tag Team titles are really important, right? And their answer is almost more important is the fact that it's a year since we fought them at Royal Quest, and we're here to show that we're better than we were last year, and we're better than them. Which goes to say it's Tony Khan and his traditions again. It's like, this match is happening because it was 1 year to the day that they had an absolutely incredible match. They will have an incredible match at WrestleDream. We'll all enjoy it. So the problem with this match, I think, is not that the Workhorsemen are being given an opportunity. No, we love that. That's great. The problem was this diversion, which forced Aussie Open to claim that they didn't want the tag team titles, that the tag team titles were less valuable than their personal vendetta because 1 year ago they wrestled. That was a weird thing for me. It ended the way we all knew it was going to end, honestly. It was your thing about booking a title match, but also booking another title match in between. And so I don't really imagine that the Workhorsemen are going to go... Workhorsemen are going to win because...
You've already set the match up for WrestleDream.
Exactly. That's where there's been this weird clash. So if your take is that the Workhorsemen was a weird choice of a tag team to fight, you're wrong. The other part is the more important thing to focus on, I think.
I thought Aussie Open were actually really good on commentary.
They were.
Very good on commentary. And actually, I thought the promo they cut afterwards as well.
Yes.
Which was all about that idea of, look, we had a legit, best match of the year this time last year, and we have not lived up to that hype. So I think you can look at it from a logical landscape of, they need to prove that they are worth the hype. So even if FTR didn't have the World Tag Team Championships, they still need to prove that they are worth the hype that they were been bestowed upon them by FTR by beating FTR. Same with the Young Bucks earlier this year at All In. But it does have a massive hole within that, which is just like, well, surely you want the tag titles as well.
Yeah.
It's the same when Ollie made this point about Punk versus Joe. It's like, well, why doesn't he want Joe's TV title? It's like, yeah, it's a great point. Yeah. Why doesn't he want that belt? And it's just a point that's never addressed. Honestly, I wouldn't have addressed this. I would not have brought it up on commentary.
That's what I mean.
Because it just puts you in a position of, well, why don't they want the tag titles?
And they said it in the promo last week. They were like, whether you have the titles or not. Like, why this was an own goal that you've made. That's it. They didn't need to.
Yeah.
And they did.
A bigger own goal, though, is Mark Davis's haircut, which I do think is...
Which one's which?
Mark Davis is the one that is the one with the mustache. He's Dunkzilla. He's the
best. Oh, right. Not the one with the curtains, which are very in right now.
No, I mean, he's got the second worst haircut in all of professional wrestling. No,
He's got the most worst haircut.
Mark Davis.
Those are the two worst haircuts in all of professional wrestling?
In all of pro wrestling, they have the two worst haircuts.
Goodness gracious.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I, on record, think that Aussie Open are the greatest tag team on the planet.
Yeah, you love them.
I have been singing Aussie Open's praises now on this very channel and on WrestleTalk et al. Since 2017. Because I do think they are the most unsung tag team on the planet who are just the best. And it is like, it's tight because you got like the Young Bucks in there now, especially the Usos as well. You've got the Young Bucks in there, you've got FTR. Aussie Open are right within that mix.
And they did a brilliant job at All In.
But they do have the worst haircuts in all of professional wrestling.
Are you just a bit jealous?
Mark Davis is my guy as well.
Right.
Of the two, Mark's always been like, I bought Dunkzilla merchandise at shows because I'm a Dunkzilla fan.
Yeah.
But that haircut, honestly, he just looks like the lad from The Simpsons who's been told to shave his sideburns by Mr. Burns.
Who do you think's got the best haircut in wrestling?
Hiroshi Tanahashi. Like, he's easily got the best hair in all of professional wrestling. Like, that's not even a question, Dan. Like, that's the easiest answer in the world. Tanahashi has the best hair. Like, that's scientifically proven he has the best hair in all of professional wrestling.
I really like Bryan Danielson's plaits.
Yeah, they're fine.
I think he looks like a dragon.
But it's nowhere near Hiroshi Tanahashi's hair, who has the best hair in all. Actually,
having more hair doesn't mean you have.
It's not because he's got more hair; it's feathered. And it's...
I love you. I just do.
Also, just because we're ranking things, third worst haircut in the world is Kota Ibushi. Yes, that's the third worst haircut in all of professional wrestling. Genuinely a dreadful haircut.
It's just a fringe,
but it's a bad one.
Okay.
And as we all know, I should be the person who should judge all the haircuts because I have none.
Yeah, there you go.
Therefore, I'm a blank canvas.
You could have any haircut.
I could have any haircut I want, but I choose to have this one. And the last thing to talk about here is Lexi Nair interviewing CJ
She has a name! She has a name!
Who interviewed CJ Perry, and Miro walked up and called her a temptation, the temptation that he's trying to avoid. And CJ was like, look, this is fine. We can work together in this company, but not together because if you don't want me. All I'm asking is you don't lay a finger on any of my future clients. There's a lovely little bit of like, I wonder who the future clients could be. Nice little bit of spice and tease in there.
Don't let it be Hobbs.
No, it's with QT Marshall. Can't be him.
Go wherever you want. It's what do whatever you want. You're booking. I like this a lot. I like this idea that Miro doesn't see his wife for who she is, kind of thing. You know, like, you're just a temptation to me, and it's like your temptation is being the center of attention. She's like, no, I'm a damn good manager. You're who you are because of me, in no small part.
Yeah.
So I'm off to go and do my thing. Just let's. I really liked it. That was a very effective segment.
And then we had a video package for WrestleDream in which it's been promised that a new era.
A new era. What do you think that means?
Edge. I don't really think that. I don't know. I tell you what I think it means, Dan. It's a snazzy tagline for a pay-per-view.
A lot of people thinking it might be 12. It just caused a lot of conversation over the weekend. 12 pay-per-views a month. Maybe that's the new era.
A lot of conversation on Twitter, Dan.
We should go out.
Honestly.
Yeah.
Grass is great.
Yeah. There's just not a lot around Wembley.
Well, that is a problem. That's if you will live in the arse end of nowhere, then that's your own fault.
Excuse you, 20 minutes to central London. Thank you very much on the Metropolitan line.
I spent my weekends hanging out with my kids. I don't have a single thought about this new era of AEW.
That sounds lovely.
It genuinely was lovely.
Yeah.
It was a kid's birthday and I had a great time. But yeah, I don't know what that means.
No.
And if you were to put a gun to my head and get something, I think it's a snazzy tagline to put on a pay-per-view to make you buy the pay-per-view.
It might well be.
I think that's all it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love this episode, Dynamite. I thought this episode of Dynamite was fantastic. This is a proper big thumbs up. If I was doing a scoring system, this is a 5 out of 5 episode. Not a bad thing on this show. The women's match is what it is.
That was bad.
But that's endemic of all of AEW. So, okay.
So I will let him off.
So it's 4.8 then. A slight little chip away, but I'm not going to take a whole star off of this just for the bad women's match. Actually, no, the bad women's match. AEW just not caring.
Yeah.
I think I've actually just got to the point now where I'm ambivalent to it.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Which is actually what they want.
Yes, they want us to not care about women.
To not care. I'm tired of having the discussion.
Oh, good.
And that is exactly what they did, Dan.
Fortunately, I've got a lot of gas in the tank.
What they did, Dan. Well, I've been doing this for 4 years, Dan. I've been having a go at this company with their bad women's division now for 4 years. I'm so tired of talking about their bad women's division, their bad women's booking.
It would be so much easier if Tony just hired a woman.
It would be so much easier if he just tried.
Yeah.
But all he's done over the last 4 years, he's just ground me down. So I'm like, fine.
Luke, I can't believe you're pushing your feminist agenda. That's my job.
But yeah, 5 out of 5 episode this was. Loved it. Sorry. Mara's in the chat. Hi, Mara. Lovely to see Mara as always. But she has just referenced when I was just talking about I didn't give a single thought to the tagline for the show of I sleep in a race car. What do you sleep in? I sleep in a big bed with my wife. That is a great Simpsons cut there for that conversation. Thank you, Mara. Right, let's get into your remaining Stark remarks once I can get Discord open.
Shall I read one while you're doing it? Are you
please
there?
do, yeah.
Okay, so Thomas Chevelin says, hey, Luke and Prof, with CJ Perry's promo on Collision alluding to managing others and telling Miro not to try and stop her, who do you think she ends up managing? I see Wardlow as a great fit.
Yeah, probably better than Arn. But yeah, I don't know. I'm massively off the boil with Wardlow.
Depends what you're doing with CJ's character as well, I think.
I think Wardlow might be AEW's biggest fumbled ball.
I would agree.
Hugely fumbled there with poor Wardlow. I saw someone, it might actually be in a chat later on, suggesting it could be the Nemeths. Like if Dolph comes in the new year.
Little bit of carrying the thread.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Spicy.
So, but apart from that, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm interested to find out.
Hey,
I'd actually really like to see them line us up with Ricky Starks. Not that like Ricky needs a mouthpiece or anything like that, but then you can move into a Starks and Miro program.
There's an idea.
And I quite like the idea of that. Bizarro Big L says, "Hey Luke, when did Kip Sabian's younger brother become the champion? Great collision this week. WrestleDream was set up quick. No complaints when I get Eddie versus Shibata and so many more. How insane would it be if CJ's clients in January are the Nemeths?" Oh, there it is. There it is.
I'm 2 years older than Kip Sabian, so thanks very much for that. You're just so youthful.
You're so youthful. I actually would have pegged you at 10 years younger.
Thanks very much.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's... Like, it feels like we set up Danielson and Zack Sabre Jr. like 4 weeks ago?
Yeah.
And
3 weeks ago.
Yeah, so I don't feel like it's come around quickly. I feel like some of the matches, but the build, yeah, I get you what you mean. But yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. Lee says, "Got back into wrestling after 10 years away in 2020 thanks to AEW, and I never watched New Japan. So far, AEW has given me zero reason to believe that Aussie Open have a chance against FTR. Sure, the match will be great from what I hear, but it's hard to care given their booking."
I think that's where the conversation we were having about getting people's bums on seats comes from. It's like there's a mazy, inconsistent booking here and there. It's a bit all over the place. Whereas at the very least, yes, it's basic AF and it tiresome at this point, but at least we know what we're gonna get when we go to, we've got in Raw and the WWE. You're gonna get to go and boo Dominic Mysterio. You're gonna get to go and do. These are consistently the stars of the show, whereas that all over the place booking kind of removes the driving factor.
I wonder if the video packages on this episode of Collision might have changed your mind, or at least given you some sort of reason to care, because they did, they were using clips of Royal Quest from last year to try and show you this is who Aussie Open are, and the match that they had against FTR last year, which was like an incredible match. So I wonder if that has done some way, but I get what you mean as well, because they're not featured on TV a huge amount.
Yeah.
This is a match that when it's announced, I am massively excited for. A, Aussie Open fan for many years. B, I love that Royal Quest match. So I'm like dead excited for that. In the same way that I'm excited about Danielson versus Zack, because long-time Zack fan, Danielson's the greatest wrestler on the planet. This is a legit dream match that I want to see. But if you're not, like, as Lee's pointing out here, if you're not someone who watches New Japan and you're not familiar with Zack or watched him on the indies in the UK, you're like, why do I need to care about this match? And in fairness to those people, AEW haven't exactly done a lot of that on TV. It's just Danielson's been having great matches, but there's no, like, showdown with Zack. There's no promo from Zack. Zack's been doing promos in New Japan, but they're not seeing those on TV here. So if you're not watching the New Japan product, you're not seeing the great work that Zack is doing to put this match over.
It relies a lot on the conversation online, I think, to drive it forward, rather than giving you the reason on weekly television, which is an interesting choice.
Richie says, "I've been following the WorkHorsemen at my local indies since 2019, and they only keep getting better. I know FTR was a dream match for them, and it absolutely delivered. In my opinion, they are the most underrated tag team in the world right now."
Let's hope that they can crack on. More opportunities.
Also, congratulations to JD, as they point out on commentary. Professional bowler.
8 300 throws. Whatever that means.
It sounds well good.
Yeah.
Touchdown.
I like bowling.
Juan Perez has been a member for 24 months in a row. That's also not an invite for people to tell me what that means in the comments down below. Juan Perez just says, Adam! And Big Boss here says, "Imagine Juice and Tony's married life in kayfabe character."
I don't want to.
Ben Blerick here took some time, but damn, Christian is doing really great in AEW. Like Matt Hardy with the Broken Universe, he's really proving that he's not the Jannetty of his former team. Hell, he might even be the better one. I find his run better than Edge's in WWE. I'm glad he was able to come out for a time and for AEW to be around for him, since WWE probably would have not done much with him. He's a great in-ring worker, great talker, and hella funny too. The man's a legend and deserves his flowers. I was thinking about this while I was watching the shows during Danielson wrestling, and I was like, man, I've just watched Danielson. I'm watching Danielson wrestle. I just watched RVD early in the show, and I'm getting to see Christian wrestle again. I think this really is like a Saraya back in the ring. Really is, 5 years ago, wouldn't have thought that's been the case. Even like 2 years ago, for some of those people, you wouldn't have thought that was the case.
My one pushback on what you've just said here is that it took some time, but Christian is doing great. He's really proving he's not the Jannetty of his former team. I would argue he did that in 2005.
I would argue he was doing that in 2001.
Well, but I mean specifically when he went off to I'm trying to speak your language. He went off to TNA and had an incredible run and kind of proved exactly why. It's that whole thing of like, kind of what Rick Boogs was saying. If the person at the top doesn't vibe, you kind of have a little bit hamstrung. And in this case, he's forced them to pay attention, and they're apparently they're very, very happy with his work, as well they should be.
I've been ringing the bell and banging the gong. Christian was the better brother. I think Christian was always better than Edge. It's just, I mean, in fairness, he was never going to get pushed in WWE, particularly under Vince, because Vince thought he looked weird.
Yeah, which is stupid.
Stupid thing.
Have you seen you?
You mean Vince?
Oh yeah, not you. Me. No, you're a handsome chap. No, I mean like Vince's moustache.
Yeah, well, like Vince's whole thing, and this is a genuinely true story. It's one that everyone knows at this point. He wanted to give Christian a gimmick where a blue dot was over his face because he thought he didn't want to look at him on TV.
When a man who looks like a melting candle is telling you that you need to have a blue dot on your face, you really start to question your value.
Creepy little bastard was not like that was given to Christian for a reason because Vince just did not like Christian.
Nonsense.
But he was the better brother. Jonathan Edmonds said, I wonder if AEW was only in dailies for a long time, except for pay-per-view when they tour, likely to sell more. How can I miss you if you don't go away? Well, I don't think they were in dailies for a long time because of the pandemic.
Yeah, and you could only have a few people in there.
Yeah.
I mean, the idea of how can I miss you is a very legitimate thing. Like, it's like my favorite artist hasn't released an album in 7 years, and it's like I'm chomping at the bit. Go away, let me miss you, and then come back. It's that kind of thing of. That's why I always talk about an off season. Like, could you imagine if Kevin Owens had like or Judgment Day had an off season after losing titles?
So I wouldn't have to watch them and Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn.
This is it.
Which I get to see again tonight.
Yeah, or Orange Cassidy. It's like if you let him go away for a little bit after losing to John Moxley, then come back, we're chomping at the bit to see him again.
Andy Sandbog here said, great effing show. Would love your opinions on this. Obviously, the crowds aren't as full, but does it impact your viewing experience? I feel AEW does a very good job with audience audio, and more importantly, the camera work is actually well done to the point where it's shot, where they shoot the crowd, it does feel crowded. It feels like those pay-per-views have a unique feel to the shows. Obviously, cameras pan around more, but they really do know how to use them when they have. It doesn't affect my viewing experience. Mostly, I think because as well, I've gone to indie shows where there's 10 people.
Yeah.
I'm kind of used to. Yeah. If I see 100 people, I'm like, whoa, this place is packed out. But as long as the crowd are hot and they're mic'd, there's small crowds are bad if they're not making noise. That is when it affects my viewing experience.
The other side of that coin was packed out audiences in WWE in sort of like May, June time who were absolutely dead silent for some of the best wrestling I was watching that week. A packed crowd doesn't inherently mean that you're going to be as vocal as you should be. So no is the answer to that question. It doesn't affect my viewing experience. It's only when afterwards I see it that I start noticing, oh, that's a thing. And then I start wondering why from a business perspective and how they fix it. Yeah.
Cody says, I was at the show and it was a fun night. My voice hasn't 100% recovered yet. I wanted to go for Punk, but Danielson and Starks, the triple threat, and seeing Jimmy Jacobs at ROH, who's from there, was taped to made up for it. Also, who's your favorite Pokemon? Yeah, I just saw that over the weekend that Jimmy Jacobs had an ROH match, which is really cool. Who I don't have. Oh, I'll tell you what it is. Woolulu, because it's a name that I find delightful.
Charmander.
There you go. I've never played a Pokemon game once. Jack Lloyd says, I can't wait for WrestleDream. So many of my favorites from The Righteous, Osprey, Statlander, and Swerve. I really want Swerve to win. He needs a big win, mainly to see more of Prince Nana. Who do you want to see dethrone MJF? My pick is either Swerve or Jay. Still in a way, Adam Cole.
Yeah. Adam Cole or Roderick Strong or maybe even Samoa Joe. I don't know. I think it's got to be within this storyline. And I think if you don't follow through on it, I think it'll be a waste.
I do think I'd love to see Swerve get the win over Page.
Yes.
Really push himself in that upper mid card into that main event scene.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Andy Sandberg here says, I remember when we were criticizing AEW for not using Jay White correctly when they first brought him in. What is the consensus now that he is a massive prominent figure on Collision? Bullet Club Gold is the best that Bullet Club has been in a long, long time. That last statement is for darn sure true. But yeah, kind of what we were saying earlier, Collision has been breath of fresh air that Jay needed in AEW.
Yeah, I agree.
This one here from Danny, who just says, aka NFT, has been a member for 28 months in a row, says, thanks for the stream.
You're most welcome.
You're most welcome. We'll see you again
Thank
tomorrow.
you for being here.
Joseph Ray has been a member for 25 months in a row. Says, hi guys, using my member chat to shout out the velvety tone of Dan on his recent list videos. And Sully's commentary was hilarious in the news today.
Well, thank you on behalf of us both.
Yes, well, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you, Danny, for your wonderful, lovely comments as well. Shame that no one's talked about my twerking in today's news, though. Which is, it's a real shame. I put a lot of effort into that. Ilan Wall has become a member. And Eternal Blue has been a member for 27 months in a row. Says so many months. Lovely stuff recently, boys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Eternal Blue. That is going to do it for this episode of the AEW Collision review of the WrestleTalk Podcast. Please do press the subscribe button. This is your first time here. I'm going to end the poll.
I don't know. Sometimes you forget.
I have forgotten over once.
In the meantime.
So yeah, in the meantime, press the subscribe button if this is your first time here and you've made it this far. Give us a little thumbs up as well. Leave a comment down below if you're watching this on demand. And yeah, we'll see you tomorrow on the Raw review. Can now confirm this got 89% thumbs up with mid being 10%. I genuinely thought that would be higher.
Really?
I really thought that would be a 90+ episode because we've had 90+ episodes of Collision before that I thought were not as good as this one.
Interesting. I think I just assume 80% and high. I think there's always going to be naysayers.
Oh yeah, absolutely there will be. Just going to get a quick preview up for Raw because we'll be live with that tomorrow.
I think the Judgment Day and Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn will be involved together. Yep. We also have Otis and Big Bronson Reed having a little big man clash.
That's correct. I believe Drew McIntyre is on Miz TV.
Fabulous.
And it will be Sami and KO versus the Judgment Day for the tag titles. Because it wouldn't be an episode of Raw in 2023 post-Mania without it. So thank you very much for watching. We will see you tomorrow on the Monday Night Raw podcast review. Until then, I've been Luke and DAD. That has been the Professor Dan Layton, the Truth Dan Layton. Jam that jam.